That's me in the middle, wearing a Pantera t-shirt.
Well, don't you stand there with Pantera! What's happening?
I've always been into music, I think more than most people. Growing up, my parents said they'd come home to find me playing Bach or Mozart with my face up front of the speakers and the volume cranked all the way up to 11. In school, I played the stand-up bass and orchestra all the way through high school. Out of school, I played drums in some pretty bad punk and metal bands. Also was a vocalist. But one thing I've never done is play the guitar. I've always thought the strings are too close together and it's too complicated, and never tried to do it, although I've always been interested. So, in this project, I will learn, or attempt to learn, or at least to expose myself to the 6-string guitar, and to record some audio. First, before I go out and buy a guitar, I have to decide what genre of music I want to play. Could play jazz or blues, or rock, or metal, punk, classical. Because I'm such a big fan of classical music, I decided to go with metal. In my mind, there's not a large difference between the two. In fact, in this video I argue that modern hard rock and metal is classical music. I think that if Chopin, or especially Vivaldi or Mozart, were alive today, they would be playing metal. I think if Bach was around, he would definitely be into doom metal.
The chapters, the way this is evolving it's fascinating. It's almost like movements of a classical piece. If I were to do a concerto and have, different movements essentially signaled often by different tempo markings, I would think that I just moved into the next section. It's amazing how much classical music and metal music have in common, and it delights me.
More so than any other genre, metal aligns with classical in its style and the content, the emotions of the song. That's why there's so much overlap between metal and classical. So many metal musicians play classical music, and so many classical musicians play metal. And often at concerts, you'll see metal bands with entire orchestras behind them. Dimmu Borgir, Metallica, both do this.
trust in who we are, and nothing else matters.
The first step in this journey is to pick out and buy a guitar. So after doing some research, I determined that the most important thing to look for in a guitar is that it looks cool. So being a big fan of metal, death metal, black metal, grindcore, thrash metal, symphonic black metal, a lot of black metal, second wave Norwegian black metal, a wide variety of music. I picked out a Jackson Dinky flat black guitar, which is definitely appropriate for black metal, which is the type of music I decided that I'm going to try to play here. So, why did I choose black metal? Well, first of all, my family's from Norway. I'm Norwegian, and all true Norwegians love black metal. Oslo, Norway is the ancestral home of black metal. A shop there was founded in the early 90s by members of Mayhem, Burzum, Emperor, called Helvita, which of course means hell in English. And this is where the genre began. But just as much as black metal, I'm also a fan of opera. And like Helvita, Salzburg, Austria, the home of Mozart, is the home of opera. And I don't see a big difference between the two. They both often sing about death and dying and fighting and all sorts of terrible, wonderful things. This piece here is one of my favorite areas. This is a woman singing about leaving her nice warm home. She goes out into the cold, snowy wilderness, and she gets crushed and killed by a glacier immediately after this song. So, opera, black metal, very similar. But back to black metal. Now that I've chosen a genre, the next step is to choose a song to play. Unlike pop music, black metal is technically difficult and challenging to play. So, after reviewing a couple of potential songs, I realized that I'm going to have to choose a song with less notes, something that's going to be easier for me to learn in a day or two. Now the problem with this is that simple pieces are often very, very challenging to get right, to get the feeling right. For example, anybody who plans on learning the trumpet and thinks they're going to start out with this song is definitely in for a world of hurt. Of course, I'm not learning to play the trumpet, and I'm not cool enough to play jazz. I'm attempting to play the guitar. One of the best examples I can think of a guitar solo which on sheet music may look somewhat simple, but is effectively impossible to play well, is this piece here by the same person, Tina S., that we saw earlier, playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. I don't expect to do anything in my life, much less play the guitar as well as she does. But it's a good example of a somewhat simple guitar piece, which is very difficult to play due to its simplicity. In this case, there's probably only one person that can play that piece better than her, and his name is David Gilmour. As for me, I'm going to have to go much simpler. Like Kristen Dillman directing Beethoven's 7th Symphony, or Virgil Fox playing Bach's organ works, Dark Throne's Transylvania Hunger is an immediately recognizable piece and a defining song in a black metal genre. It's also extremely easy to play, or at least appears to be. So this is a song that I'm going to learn to play and to record. But not so quick. I can't just pick up my guitar and start playing it and record using a microphone I randomly place somewhere in the room like they did originally. I need to somehow plug this guitar into my computer and then use some kind of software to record it and make tracks and upload to the internet. That's about as much as I knew about all this stuff when I started. I started out looking at how to connect the computer to the guitar. It turns out it's called an audio interface, which does the job, so I ordered one of those from Guitar Center. And then once I have the sound going into the computer, I needed to modify it and control it and make tracks and such. And so there's something called a digital audio workstation. This has all the different tracks and buttons and stuff on it. Quite a steep learning curve to this. And then to get the guitar sounds and the different amplifiers and the pedals, I downloaded Guitar Rig 5 plugin, and then for the drums I downloaded a Addictive Drums plugin. They both required some sort of BST plugin, something or other. I don't know, it took me hours to get that to work. And then some sort of core meter control center, not really sure what that is either. Plugins didn't seem to work without it. But before I did that, I wanted to be able to capture all this. So I had to look up and find some a video capture program which captured audio off of my soundboard, which will be the guitar. And then to get a little a little meta, I had to get a video editing program. So I used Corel Video Studio. So I have to have a voice recording software. So I found a program called Audacity. I've got all that working, and I can record what I'm doing. So now I have to learn to play the guitar. It turns out there's things called chords and power chords. Not really sure what those are still. Luckily, the strings are similar to a bass. If you remember, I played the bass when I was younger. So I know that those are E, A, D, G, and then there's 2 extra strings. I don't really mess around with those. So I had to learn how to move my fingers around the fretboard. Turns out there's something called tremolo picking, which is what they predominantly use in black metal. So I had to watch some YouTube videos on how to tremolo pick, and it didn't seem too difficult to do. I guess it would get tiring after a while. One of the strangest things is it turns out guitars don't use notes anymore, like F sharp, G, They use like little X's, and they say like 3rd fret, 4th fret, like this string, that string. If you want to read sheet music, it's a bunch of little X's and stuff on image of a fretboard, which is really strange. They don't use the notes, which took me a little bit getting used to. So now I'm going to learn this song.
I don't think any instrument has received quite such maltreatment in recent years, or perhaps ever, as the guitar, a once noble instrument which has now been appropriated by almost any teenager who can learn 3 chords, and of course who can afford the down payment too on the instrument.
What I'm trying to play here is Burzum's Dunkelheit, maybe one of black metal's most famous songs. Incidentally, the guy who created that band killed one of the band members in Mayhem, the shirt that I'm wearing there while I'm playing guitar. So, fun fact. And that is the result of several days of learning how to use this software, modify all the knobs and adjustments on these pedals and amplifiers to try and get the same tone as these bands, and then practicing this piece for an evening. Overall, it's a day's worth of practice on an instrument, so I can't expect much. I think if I continue to practice, I could probably sound less worse, so I'm satisfied.
In solitude we walk, shrouded in our dreams, into the midst of night, spirits left unseen. Deep anguish, redeem me with your gentle kiss. Lay this sadness into the